Howdy, and welcome to episode 116 of In the Rabbit Hole's Urban Survival Podcast. In this episode, Marshall of Going Gear shines a light down the rabbit hole. I'm your host, Aaron, and you are in the rabbit hole, safe and sound. Marshall, welcome to the show, man.
Thanks for having me on.
So you are the purveyor of all things flashlight, and I've seen your YouTube channel and everything and seen your giant wall of flashlights, and obviously you do a whole lot more than that, but that's what we're going to talk about until we get to the rest of your stuff in just a little while. But tell us how you got so interested in flashlights.
I was born. I think that was pretty much the starting point. I don't really have any memories where I didn't like flashlights. I mean, I remember going on hiking trips with my dad when I was, 4 or 5 years old, and I had my little backpack, and it had 6 or 7, admittedly garbage flashlights in there. But, I'd always pull them out and look around in rabbit holes and trunks of trees and stuff like that. And it's just always something I've been into.
Very cool. So for most instances, it's a bigger world than a lot of people think, unless they're like you or me and have a bit of a flashlight affliction. So there's been huge advances in them since you or I were kids. I mean, I remember when we were kids, I think we were probably around about the same age. When we were kids, they were just kind of like mag lights and these other lights that had the little incandescent bulb that was in it and everything else. But these lights today, that they're not the lights we're used to.
No, absolutely not. And that's a big reason I do the videos, is because everybody's used to those mag lights. Everybody's used to the 4D mag light, which I use as kind of the control in all my videos, or most of them anyway. And I show it, and I show what a modern light can do, and people are just blown away. And I'm like, yeah, that's the difference. That's what technology can do. And admittedly, a lot of these are a lot more expensive, but people are like, why would I spend $100 on a flashlight, or $200, or even $50? And you just turn it on, and you can immediately see why it's worth so much more than those others.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I think a lot of them, in a lot of ways, these lights now, they're like knives. They're specific tools for specific jobs. How do you go about picking the right light?
It's funny. We actually did a video on that recently. I don't know if you've ever seen Such's videos on YouTube.
Yeah, I sure have.
Yeah, so he's a friend of mine, and he comes down to the store a few times a year. And he came down to the store. We did a seminar on how to pick out the perfect flashlight. And, there's a lot of things that go into it. The biggest thing, and it's something I harped on over and over in the video, is what are you doing with it? I mean, what's the intended purpose of it? And that'll answer every single other question. If you're talking about something that you want to carry around in your pocket, then that eliminates all the larger ones. If you're talking about something that you want to light up something a kilometer away, that eliminates all the smaller ones. So you just kind of think about what your intended purpose for it is. There's just a list of questions you can kind of go down and get very, very specific. Because that's something that intimidates everybody when they go on our website, or when they come into our store. You're talking about the wall of flashlights. We have, I think, about 250, 300 flashlights on that wall. That's about a quarter of our selection. So we have just a ridiculous number of flashlights, and it's intimidating. So that's kind of what we're there for, what all my sales guys are there for, is you walk in and you say, hey, what are you doing with it? And we kind of go down the list and help you narrow it down. But you just kind of have to get an idea of what you're going to be doing with it. And then you just go down the list and figure out what you want.
So what would be an example of some of those questions that you'll ask your customers?
Battery type is one of the big ones. So battery type, if you want to use AA's, the batteries that are easy to find everywhere, or if you want the smaller, higher power ones like the CR123s, or if you don't mind using rechargeables like lithium ions or nickel metal hydride, the battery type can determine a lot of the stuff. The size, size is going to be a big one. What are you comfortable carrying around? If it has a specific purpose, firefighters and a lot of guys need safety rated lights. So they're explosion rated and all that kind of stuff. They're very specific, very narrowly focused lights, and that kind of gets you down to just a few lights. Or if you need to weapon mount it, something like that, that gets you down to kind of a narrow focus of lights. A lot of questions like those. It's all centered around what are you going to be doing with the light.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. And it's interesting you brought up weapon-mounted lights, and of course that immediately gets me down another rabbit hole. So which do you find people end up preferring more? Because like I have two of the Streamlight weapon mounted lights that are the that just clip onto the rail, the Picatinny rail. But do you see a lot of people going with and actually enjoying the kind where it's got the bracket that mounts it onto the Picatinny rail and it's got the push button or the remote push button?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of where the market is focused. I mean, the ones you're talking about, I'm guessing like the TLR1 or that kind of light.
Yeah.
Or the Surefire X300 is kind of another similar light. The thing about both of those is they were developed around handguns. And they work on long guns, they work on rifles. But the majority of the customers that we have coming in are using them on rifles. So they want something with a little bit more punch, a little bit higher output. You know, maybe they're out there going after coyotes or hogs or something like that. So you need something that can go out to a couple hundred yards that gets you in a whole other class of lights. So that's usually where we see the focus going towards.
Okay. All right. That was funny. When you said that, for some reason, the picture of Bill Murray in Caddyshack duct taped with the giant silver flashlight on the side of his rifle popped into my head. Oh, too funny. And we just threw out a couple of brands, and there's a lot of brands out there. There's Surefire, there's Streamlight, which are the two that most people, I think, especially in this community, are familiar with. But there's also Olight and 4.7s, and the list just starts going on and on and on. What do you think is what ends up being the difference in these higher end brands?
The real difference, man, I really don't know if I could tell you that there is one. You know, if you start looking at the offerings from all these different companies, you're going to see a lot of similarities. I mean, you're going to have differences definitely in the technology, the stuff that they're using in terms of the interfaces and stuff like that, because some will have patents and, you know, other guys won't be able to use that stuff. But if you look at 10 of a similar light across 10 different companies, you're going to see a very similar product. The biggest difference, you know, you mentioned Surefire. I'm going to try not to, since we're a Surefire dealer and we're a dealer for most of these guys, I'm going to try not to badmouth anybody. But Surefire is a great company, made in the U.S., lifetime warranty, extremely high quality stuff. But, you know, they're priced out for a lot of people. So if you talk about their larger, longer throwing lights, I mean, some of these get up to $1,000, you know, $500, $600, $1,000 on some of them. It's a lot of money for a lot of people. So, I mean, the companies that are coming out of China, you know, producing the stuff in China, still extremely high quality, great warranty, great products. It's just made in China, so they're less expensive. You can get comparable performance for, you know, $100, $150. That's one of the big differences we see between Surefire specifically and a lot of the Chinese companies. Streamlight, we don't actually deal with. I think they make a solid product. The biggest thing I've seen from them is that, you know, they've been making a lot of the same things for a long time. And it almost seems like they've gotten kind of comfortable in that role. So we don't see them updating their products as often as other companies. And I'm honestly not as familiar with their line as I am with a lot of other companies. I know they make a good product. It just seems like they're a little bit behind some of the other guys.
Yeah, I've noticed that too. I mean, I have a couple of their lights, and then I have a couple of their weapon lights that I like them. They're great lights, but it's been interesting to me. I've noticed the same thing. They don't update often. They don't come out with new stuff often. Not that I need a constant supply of new flashlights, but I need a constant supply of new flashlights.
Yep.
So,
and you know, that's thinking about it a lot. You know, because we get this question a lot. It's probably by design, because their big markets are going to be your first responders, you know, your law enforcement, your EMTs, your firefighters, and all those kind of guys. And when you start talking about the purchasing departments of a lot of these places, they get the light that they want, and then that's the light. You know, it could be that light for years. So they see new models or they see changes, then they have to go through that whole process again. So they're dealing with a lot of change-averse people. I think that's one of the big reasons why you don't see their line being updated as often.
Oh, that makes sense. I had never thought of that. That actually would make perfect sense.
I could be totally wrong.
Yeah,
so,
I mean, it could also be just from a production and tooling standpoint. It's a lot cheaper for them just to stick with what they've got and maybe change out the LEDs they're using occasionally or something.
Yeah, and they're not as good as a lot of the other companies in actually saying what LEDs they're using. So they'll say, I forget what they even call them, the C4 or whatever it is. That's not an actual LED from most of these companies. You know, they're using Cree LEDs, or they're using the same companies that everybody else is using. They just call it their own thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, kind of like mattresses. Don't call your thing the same thing as everybody else, so you can't shop around, I guess.
Right, even though it's the exact same thing.
Yeah.
Right.
So what's your personal go-to brand? Or do you even have one?
I actually do. Olight. I have a really close relationship with the guys. I know the owner. He's a great guy. They make really solid products, and I see more innovation out of them than a lot of the companies. Not just that, but I know this is something that totally doesn't matter to most people, but they make their lights look cool. I mean, they have nice aesthetics. They actually hire designers that come in and make their things look nice. They don't have to do that. It's nice to see that they take that extra step. So they've got a lot of innovation in terms of the engineering and the flashlight technology and everything. Then they also come in and have the design guys just make them look cool. So they make solid products, and I like them a lot.
You know, I'm almost a little ashamed to admit that was one of the reasons when I bought an Olight from you probably a month or two ago, the M18.
Yep.
And that was one of the reasons I was like, that's just a good looking flashlight. Like,
yeah, they look nice.
Yeah, I mean, Surefire makes like good, very like heavy duty. I'm gonna go beat up a tank or something with this light. Their lights have really, as far as, and I guess part of that is branding too. But their lights really always look exactly the same. They don't ever look any different.
Yeah, I mean I'm sure that's by design. You know, they're big contractors with the military and the law enforcement and those kind of guys that just beat the crap out of lights. So they have that just rugged aesthetic. There's a place for that. You know, there's a place for all this stuff.
Yeah. You know, and we brought up Surefire and their lifetime warranty a minute ago, and that was an interesting thing. And, you know, it's funny. It's something I didn't actually look at, like Olight, and this kind of opens it up broader. Like, how many of these higher end flashlight companies have that same kind of lifetime warranty as Surefire does?
They all do to an extent. So most of them have at least a 2-year warranty where they fix anything for pretty much any reason, unless it's, you know, putting crappy batteries in there or you chuck it against a wall and then ran over it with the tank kind of stuff. Within reason, they'll fix pretty much anything. And then after that, they just charge you for parts and labor, which is next to nothing. And all the companies that I've dealt with will do that pretty much for forever. But most of them start out with about a 2-year warranty, then go from there. But if you're talking about like Surefires, where for the lifetime of the product or for the lifetime of you or whatever the lifetime warranty is considered, nobody has anything like that. Eagle Tac kind of does. I'm honestly not that familiar with their lifetime warranty because it hasn't been around that long. You know, we don't have any 20-year-old Eagle Tacs to test this on like we do on Surefire. But Eagle Tac will probably be the closest one. But honestly, all of them, I mean, they stand behind their products. They honor the warranties. They'll take care of it.
Yeah, I almost forgot about it and almost just chucked the Surefire, but I think I have like a Woodsman or something like that, and one of the head unit went out or was acting crazy, and I was actually surprised because I just shot him a quick email and was like, "Hey, this thing's doing this. What do I do to get it fixed?" It was kind of an expensive light, so let me just at least look into it. And they were like, "Oh, just send it to us, and just include your name and address and a piece of paper, and we'll send you a new one." And I was like, "Okay." Sure enough, they did. Like a week later, I got a brand new head.
Yeah.
So
there you go.
I was pretty impressed.
It's a solid warranty, you know, made in the U.S. and a lot of people like that, and a lot of people still go for Surefire for that reason. There's nothing wrong with that. They make a great product.
Yeah, I've enjoyed mine. Now, here's a question, and this has puzzled me for a while. And we can kind of get into some of the other features we were talking about a second ago of some of these higher end lights, but it's the strobe mode. Is that for impromptu 80s parties, or what is that actually useful for?
So the whole idea behind strobe is to disorient somebody. And it is used actually an awful lot, especially by law enforcement and bouncers and those kind of guys. You know, in like a tactical situation, when they're doing room clearing or anything like that, they're going to end up strobing themselves as well. So they don't really use it in those kind of situations. It's more like DUI checkpoints or drunk guys at a bar, stuff like that, where maybe the guy's already a little inebriated, pop him in the eyes with strobe, and it really messes him up.
Oh, that's good to know. I'll have to save that nugget of information for my friends.
And there are plenty of guys that talk about it as a self-defense tool. I know if you strobed me, it wouldn't affect me all that much because I've been hit with it so many times, and I know what it feels like, and I know how to react to it. You know, it's like the guys that are immune to pepper spray because they spray themselves over and over. I wouldn't really rely on it as an end-all, be-all self-defense, but for most people, it's going to disorient them for at least a few seconds. You know, there have been a lot of studies done, even internationally. You know, there's a lot of other countries where they they don't necessarily have the firearms that we have and stuff like that, they use flashlights as one of their main defense tools. So there have been a lot of studies on strobe and the effects of it. And fast strobe, most people, it'll disorient for 2 or 3 seconds. So it has its purpose.
I figured it had to be a purpose. I didn't think it was for filming a zombie show or anything like that. But I
they use it for that too.
Well, yeah, but it's just always kind of puzzled me. And one of the other things we talked about a minute ago was like really throwing light out there. And I know one of those measures ends up being lumens. And now we're really starting to get kind of down the rabbit hole of lights. What does it really mean when you go to a website and you look at a light and it says 600 lumens or 2,000 lumens? What are we really talking about there? And how does that factor into the way people should think about buying lights?
So this is probably the longest answer I'm going to give you. There's a lot that goes into this. And honestly, it depends on the company that you're looking at and at the time you're looking at that company. So pretty much every company now, for lumens and all the other ratings and everything else that they're using the ANSI FL1 standard, which just is an agreement that they all came together, and they talked about how they want to rate their flashlights. So for lumens, I can't remember the exact measurement, but it's something like after the light's been on for a minute, a meter away from the front of the light is the measure of the amount of light coming out of the flashlight. So when you're talking about lumens, people look at that and they say, oh, this must have great distance, or, they think about all these other things, but the lumen count is all of the light that's coming out of the flashlight. So if you think about like a 60-watt incandescent bulb, that's about 700-800 lumens. But if you took that and put it out in a field, how far is that going to go? It's not really going to go that far. There's a lot of other stuff that plays into distance and beam shape and stuff like that, specifically the reflector, the lens or the optic or whatever else you have on there. There's a lot of stuff that you can do to take those lumens and shape them and project them and do whatever else you need to do to them. So when you're looking at lumens, just keep in mind that's the measure of overall light. It can kind of give you a general idea of what the light can do. Like, if you see an 80 lumen flashlight or a 50 lumen flashlight, you can probably guess that it's not going to go out to 500 meters or anything like that. Or if you see something that's 1,000 lumens, you can guess it's probably going to have at least a couple hundred meters of distance. But that's not an end-all, be-all thing to say. Like, for instance, we're talking about Olight. We go back to Olight. We have my favorite flashlight that they make. It's called Olight SR Mini. It's 2,800 lumens, and it's about the size of a soda can. The thing's ridiculous. I absolutely love it, but it has no distance to it. We have a lot of people that buy them, and they're kind of disappointed in it because they're expecting to light things up 300-400 meters away, and it can't do that. It's just a pure floodlight. It just lights up everything in front of you. And people see that 2,800 lumen number, they're like, man, this thing must have some crazy distance. You just have to keep in mind that doesn't necessarily mean anything. So you have to take a look at the lumen number, you take a look at the distance, you take a look at a lot of different stuff when you're looking at all those ratings to kind of get an idea of what the light can do. And that's a big reason, again, why I do those videos, is because I want to show people what the specs don't necessarily tell you. You can get an idea from the specs, but then I'll take it outside and say, hey, this is what the beam actually looks like. This is the interface, the stuff that you can't really get just by reading a description. So does that answer your question?
That does.
Okay.
that really does.
Good.
So, and you mentioned, like, as far as the lens and everything else and the reflector, and I was poking around one of your videos the other day and I noticed, like, you were comparing, going back to Olights, actually, it was comparing 2 different generations of Olights, and one of them had a smooth reflector and one had more of an orange peel reflector. And I guess when people are looking at those lights and looking at the distance and looking at everything else, sometimes there's good information about the reflectors, sometimes there's not. And I guess when there is, how do you differentiate what reflector is kind of going to do what?
So as a dealer, this also drives me crazy because a lot of the manufacturers, they'll ship different reflectors between different batches. So sometimes they'll be smooth, sometimes they'll be heavily textured or orange peel, sometimes they'll be lightly. And you're like, guys, just please stick with the same thing. It drives us nuts. But in general, so if it has a smooth reflector, it's going to be a little bit dirtier of a beam. So there's more chances of there being like the bright rings around the center of the beam and stuff like that. More chance of that, but it's going to give you more distance. The orange peel, so the texturing that you see on the reflector, is going to be a more smoothed out beam. So the center of the beam, the bright spot called the hot spot, out to the spill, there's going to be a better transition between those two. It's going to be a little bit smoother, a little bit cleaner. So it's just a little bit more pleasing to the eyes. It's a little bit easier to tell the difference between things when you're shining it around versus when you have the kind of dirty beams that you get from the smooth reflectors. And honestly, LED technology has eliminated a lot of that stuff. It definitely still is present, but it's not nearly as bad as it used to be, where if you had a smooth reflector, chances are the beam looked pretty bad. You have a smooth reflector and a modern LED, and the beam still looks pretty good.
Okay. And you brought up a good word there, the LEDs.
Yep.
We brought up about the different generations of LEDs. So can you kind of walk us through that?
Man, that'd be even longer than the lumen conversation. There's been a lot of LEDs over the years. So if you think about the LEDs that most people are probably familiar with, they're like the little 5mm ones that have the little plastic dome over them. They're like the indicator lights on your computer and that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. Just your crappy low output ones. That's kind of where flashlights started out. So a lot of people think of LED flashlights. They're thinking of those because those were around for a long time. And, just low output, had no distance. The beams were usually very blue. They just looked pretty crappy. One of the big companies that kind of turned that all around was, I think it's actually Philips. I think Philips makes the LEDs, but it was Luxeon. The Luxeon LED kind of revolutionized all this stuff. So that's what Phoenix started out with. And I'm sure one of your listeners is going to correct me on all this stuff. But my recollection of it, we'll go with that, is that, when Phoenix started all this stuff of making the small, compact, high-quality flashlights over in China, they were using the Luxeon LEDs. And they look pretty bad. If you took 10 different flashlights and put them side by side, you'd have a lot of difference in the output. You'd have a lot of difference in the quality of the beam. You'd have a lot of difference in the color. That was the big thing that everybody complained about. Some of them would be super green, some would be blue, some would be kind of yellowish. And you're talking about the exact same model of flashlight. So a lot of that technology has progressed beyond the point where you had any of those issues. But starting out, even with all those issues, you take this tiny little AA flashlight and you put it next to a big 4D mag light, and you're like, holy crap, that is so much better. That looks so much better. And, everything just got better and better from there. So they're one of the big companies that started out. Pretty much all the LEDs and 95% of the flashlights these days are made from a company called Cree. They're a North Carolina company. They're where all the technology is coming from these days. There's a few other guys out there. Luxeon's still doing some stuff. I think they're a Japanese company, Nichia, that's making some stuff. There's some guys out of Massachusetts that are making some stuff. There's some different companies, but most of the stuff is coming from Cree, and they basically take their LEDs and just make them better and better. Higher output, higher quality, lower power requirements, and they keep on getting better and better.
Yeah, it seems like even within just about the last 5 years, it seems like they've doubled in output.
Oh yeah, I mean it's just like processors. I mean these things are little chips, so I mean you're going to see similar kind of improvements that you are with semiconductors, where the output just doubles. After 3 or 4 years, I don't know what the time period is for LEDs, but yeah, same kind of thing. You see the output just going up all the time. Basically each generation. So if we're talking about Cree specifically, so a couple of their big LEDs are the XML and the XML2. Those are what you're going to see in a lot of lights, especially the larger ones. 20% increase in output. So same battery, everything else being the same, you can get a 20% increase in output, higher quality beam. Usually the color's a lot better, and everything just looks better, and the same footprint. So it's some pretty impressive technology coming out these days for sure.
Now, when you mention the color and everything else, what, besides just being annoying to flashlight aficionados, what realistic real-world impact does having, say, a beam that's like more green or more blue have on somebody using the light?
So we'll talk about white colors last. We'll talk about non-white colors first.
Okay.
That's what a lot of people ask about a lot of times. So if you're talking about the different colors, red is traditionally used for low light situations. Green, from what I've been told by hunters, a lot of animals can't see green. Blue, people will use for blood tracking. And then, of course, you have ultraviolet and infrared, and you know what you do with those colors. Or if people don't know, I'll say real quick. So ultraviolet, usually for People like find scorpions with them, currency, a lot of passports react to them, bodily fluids, that kind of stuff. And then infrared is usually a law enforcement or military kind of thing where you're lighting up somebody with a light that they can't see. So those are all the non-white colors. And we talk about white. So that's 99% of flashlights out there are going to be, or probably 99.9% of flashlights are using the different white colors. And the big ones that are out right now, so you have cool white, you have neutral white, you have high CRI. Those are kind of the three main ones out right now. 99% of that 99.9% of white flashlights are going to be cool white. That's what everybody thinks of. It's that kind of bluish tint, kind of the pure white bluish tint. That's cool white. Neutral white is a little bit more of a yellow color, kind of a little bit more warm color, closer to what you see with an incandescent light. And then high CRI, have you ever heard of the CRI? Do you know what that is?
Mm-mm.
I probably need to explain that.
Yeah. No, I can't say that I do. I was just about to ask.
I'm saying all these things and I'm like, how much of this do I need to explain? So CRI is going to be color rendering. So if you think about sunlight is 100. So all of these are basically the percentage of colors that you're going to see based on what you would see with sunlight. So if you think about cool white, if you've shown like pretty much any LED flashlight on a surface, especially greens and browns, and it's that cool white color, greens and browns don't really look all that green and brown. You know, a lot of colors look kind of washed out, and that's what you get with cool white. Most cool white LEDs are about 60 on the CRI, and neutral white, you bump up to that, you start getting better colors, and you get closer to like 70, 80 on CRI. And then high CRI, you start getting like 90, 95. But as you go higher on the CRI, usually you go lower on the output. So that's why most lights are overwhelmingly cool white, because people see that lumen number, everything being equal. The cool white LED could be 1,000 lumens, neutral white's going to be like 850, and then high CRI is going to be 700 or 600. So people see those lumen numbers and they always go for cool white because it's the bigger number. Even though the high CRI may be better for their situation. So if you think about hunters or any photographers or anybody like that where colors matter, you know, you're trying to make out differences between objects in the distance or stuff like that. The higher CRI could be better for those people, but they see the lumen count. Kind of that's what they go for.
Kind of like going back to processor speeds in computers.
Right.
Yeah, it could have a terrible bus speed, but it's got 10 billion gigahertz of whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
Or really slow drive or something else holding it back.
It's just like anything else. Most people are probably not going to notice a difference, and it doesn't really matter. You know, you get a nice quality flashlight, and it's probably going to serve your purposes. It's just you get 10 quality flashlights, and you start wondering, hey, what else is out there? You know, maybe I can find something that's better for my needs, or I have this really specific use that I need something for. There's probably something out there that's going to fit that need.
They really can get as specific as knives as far as being tools goes.
Absolutely. Wow. Absolutely, yeah.
So now, these things are high output monsters, and we talked a little bit about batteries. Let's dive into batteries. And I think everybody's familiar with the older flashlights of AA and D cell and all that other stuff. But now we have these newfangled CR123s and 18650s, and let's kind of go into those. That these things require pretty decent juice, and what's going on with these batteries that may seem odd to people.
Yeah, so AA batteries have been around for forever. Everybody knows what they are. So your standard Energizers and Duracells and all that kind of stuff. They're not bad batteries. It's just that there's better stuff out there. So if you think about like alkaline batteries, I'm sure everybody has had something where they've left batteries in a radio or an old walkie-talkie or something like that, and they've leaked. They basically ruin whatever they're in. That right there is one of the big reasons I personally always try to talk people out of using lights that only take alkalines. And that's honestly becoming such a tiny part of the market that it's not as much of an issue anymore. But still, there are some lights out there that will only take alkalines. And, you know, you spend $50, $60 on a flashlight, you don't use it for a couple of weeks and your battery leaks in it and ruins the light. That's no fun.
Yeah.
So not only that, they're pretty low voltage. So you're talking about 1.5 volts on your standard alkaline battery. Your little CR123 batteries are at 3 volts. And then lithium ion batteries, fresh off a charger, are 4.2 volts. So the voltage alone can get you higher output on a lot of these LEDs. So if you're talking about the same size light, you put an alkaline in there, and it's going to be like 120 lumens. You put a CR123 in there, it can be 300 lumens. put a lithium ion battery in there, it could be 500 or 600 lumens. So that's one of the big reasons that a lot of people are kind of migrating over towards lithium and lithium ion batteries. Not to mention the shelf life. So CR123 batteries have like a 10-year shelf life if you get quality batteries. Really wide temperature operating range. So in alkalines that are really hot and really cold, they don't really work. Kind of have to leave it in your pocket or hold it in your hand and warm it up to actually get it to the chemistry to start functioning. And we're talking about extreme temperatures here. But still, I mean, there are people that are in those situations.
Mm-hmm.
And then CR123 batteries have a really wide temperature operating range. So when they're really hot or really cold, it doesn't matter as much. So they still function just fine. You don't have to do anything special with them. And same with lithium ion batteries. You're talking about a lot of the advantages of the lithium batteries, but then you add in the rechargeable nature. So CR123s can get kind of pricey. You know, you get quality ones, and the best price you're usually going to get on a quality one is about $1 or $2. And that adds up over time. You talk about a police officer or somebody like that that's draining his batteries every single night. That cost adds up. You know, if their departments don't pay for them, we've got a lot of local guys where their department doesn't provide them with batteries, so they're on the hook for that kind of stuff. Rechargeables start making a lot of sense. Honestly, most of the stuff that we've been selling lately has been rechargeable lithium-ion battery compatible. And we sell a lot of lithium-ion batteries because there's just a lot of advantages to them.
But do they have as much of a shelf life as like the CR123s?
They do not. They do not. Most manufacturers recommend you top them off every 6 months or so. I've had lithium-ion batteries that I've forgotten about, and then they'll still have charge a few years later. That's kind of the exception. There is a little bit of self-discharge, and a lot of these have protection circuits in them. So the protection circuits usually do two things. They keep them from going over and under voltage. Then the battery starts getting messed up. And they also keep them from discharging too much. So if it's like a short in the flashlight or something like that, and it's trying to pull 40 amps out of the battery, the circuit will make it just cut off. That circuit also has a little bit of a downside that if the voltage drops too far below what that cutoff point is, you can't recharge them. So that's why they recommend that you kind of top them off every 6 months. So if you're talking about long-term storage, maybe like a Bugout bag or emergency truck light or something like that, throw CR123s in there or the Energizer lithiums or something like that have crazy shelf lives and don't worry about it.
Oh, interesting. That's good. You know, it's funny. I actually do that just as I've gotten into the 18650s, I've just been doing that with the CR123s because I already knew about their shelf life and everything else. And I already have, admittedly, a couple cases of them. So I was just like, well, I'll just have these as my backups and then I'll use the rechargeables every day.
Yeah, that's a great thing to do with them is have them as backups. You know, using them day in and day out gets kind of pricey. You know, we've got obviously our military customers, and there are a lot of law enforcement guys where their department will provide them with CR123s. They don't care so much about cost. So, you know, it's not as big of a deal. But when you talk about AT650s in particular, there are, you know, you've got a lot of advantage to lithium ion batteries. AT650s in particular have pretty much none of the downsides of the rest of the lithium-ion batteries, the lower capacity ones or the smaller ones, other than the shelf life one. So, I mean, you still have to charge them every 6 months or so, but you usually get the best battery life with them. A lot of lights are optimized for them, so you get higher output or at least the same output as two CR123s. You know, you got the rechargeable nature, so you can keep on charging them. You don't have that cost of keeping on feeding your light. They have a lot of advantages. And 18650s are the batteries that are in laptops. You know, they're the ones that are in Tesla cars. They're the ones that are in cordless drills and stuff like that. So that's where all the technology is going. That's where the focus and all the dollars are going. So 18650s keep on getting better and better while everything else just kind of stays the same.
Oh, that's really interesting trivia. I totally didn't know that.
Yeah, if you bust open your laptop, you'll see some 18650s in there.
Actually, that part I did know, but I didn't know that's what was in cordless drills. And I also didn't know that's where, and it makes sense. I mean, since it's being so widely used for big draw appliances, that's where all the real research and development is going in the world of batteries right now.
Yeah. I mean, Tesla alone was buying up, like, I forget what it was. Panasonic is one of the big manufacturers out there of the cells themselves. Sanyo is another big one. There's only really a few in the world that are kind of doing all this technology. But Tesla, we are warned by a lot of our battery suppliers that Tesla is basically buying out Panasonic's entire supply.
Oh, wow.
they ramped up production and it didn't end up becoming a problem. But Tesla was like, I mean, if they get the extended battery pack in one of those cars, it's something like 8,000 18650s. I'm probably off on the number, but it's a crazy amount of batteries.
See, then it's funny. I would have thought that they would have used some larger industrial battery and not just a crap load of 18650s.
Nope. Maybe they'll go to that in the future. But I mean, if you look at even large lithium ion battery packs, like, we're a dealer for Goal Zero. I don't know if you've ever seen those before.
Yeah, I sure have.
So Goal Zero, a lot of their larger stuff, you open it up and it's just a bunch of 18650s in there.
Huh.
I mean, even if you look at the larger cells, like the 26650s, which is about the size of a D cell. So an 18650 is about the size of two CR123s. 26650 is roughly the size of a D cell. And a 26650, like some of the higher capacity ones you'll see on the market, are about 4,000 milliamp hours, right? You can get 3,600 milliamp hour 18650s at like a quarter of the volume. So just from that alone, you can see that's where all the dollars are being pushed right now.
Okay. And so you went and brought up a really geeky term that I wanted to get into, which is milliamp hours. What does that mean?
It's just a measure of the capacity. So it's kind of like the battery life, pretty much.
Mm-hmm. And so what's like when you look at these 18650s, what are you looking for? And of course, we can start getting into a discussion about brands and batteries and who's doing what with the 18650s and all that stuff. But what do you look for in the milliamp hours?
Milliamp hours higher is better. The only thing is with some of these guys, and it depends on the manufacturer, when they go for the higher capacity batteries, it doesn't necessarily mean they're the same size as the smaller capacity ones. So some of the larger capacity ones don't fit in every light. So that's something to consider. But yeah, higher is better. I mean, it's going to give you more battery life.
What's an example of like a milliamp hour battery you would look for to, say, stick into an Olight M18 or something like that?
Our best-selling battery is Olight's 3,400 milliamp hour 18650. They're using Panasonic cells, really high quality. They have a good circuit on there, and it comes with a free carrying case. So, I say that battery in particular, if you look at the 3400s from 20 other manufacturers, as long as you're looking at the reputable guys that aren't doing any of the shady stuff, they're using the same battery. So they're using the same battery cell itself. They're all the Panasonic 3400 milliamp hour 18650 cell. They put their circuitry on there, and then they put their logo and branding and stuff on there, and the protection and stuff like that. But the battery itself, they're all coming from the same place. So just find one from a reputable manufacturer. They're not gonna use stuff that is not what they're saying what it is. I guess is the nicest way to say it. Yeah, we have a lot of customers that'll say, "Oh, I got this, 4,000 milliamp hour 18650," and I'm like, "No, you didn't." Unless you got some R&D prototype that hasn't been released yet. There are a lot of false claims out there. So just make sure you go with the reputable manufacturer, and you should be good to go. And I recommend Olight because, I talked about them before. I like them a lot. But also their battery is a few dollars cheaper than everybody else. So same quality, same internal cell, and you get a carrying case. It's a few dollars cheaper. I mean, why not?
Yeah, no kidding. I actually do have one of your carrying cases, or one of the Olight carrying cases, sitting here on my desk. I just realized while you were saying it.
They're nice little cases.
They really are. So you talked about some of the less shady, i.e. guys full of shit. What are some of the brands you would actually warn people to stay away from?
Pretty much any of the brands with fire in the name. So like Ultrafire and Trustfire. And that's not to say that they've never made a good product. They actually make a decent product. One of the big things about those companies and any of the guys that don't brand their stuff, so if they don't brand it with their logo and that kind of stuff, who knows where it's coming from. And there's a lot of counterfeits out there is the problem. But a lot of these guys don't honor warranties or honor the product or anything like that. And that's a huge red flag for me personally. If you don't have a warranty and you don't honor any sort of claims about quality or anything like that, you're like, you don't back your product up enough just to say, even give me 30 days.
Yeah.
So, just try to stay away from any of the guys that don't have a great reputation out there.
So I know a lot of these batteries, especially like the rechargeables, they have a limit on how many times you can recharge them. What's a standard number of recharges you could actually get out of Since we were already talking about the Olight batteries, the Olight 18650s.
500 if you take decent care of it.
Oh wow, that many.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, these are the same batteries that are in laptops and stuff like that, and you charge your laptop every day for a couple years, and the battery's fine. So, yeah, they can handle a lot of charges.
Are these pretty much like any other battery? I mean, we talked about like if you let it drain too low, it won't let it recharge. Is there? And I guess they haven't started putting indicators on lights yet, which I would love to see somebody do, or at
There
least,
are.
the lights, the expensive lights that I have bought. I don't know. Is it only the more expensive lights that are starting to put like the really expensive lights that are starting to put battery meters on them?
I mean, if you're talking about like percentage meter, yeah, it's the kind of expensive lights. But a lot of them will let you know when they get down to like 50% or 25%. And it's usually something as simple as just the LED starts flashing really slowly. But there's a lot of lights out there that have that on
Oh, okay. So I guess at what point does it usually start to damage the light if you just keep pushing it past that point?
it. It's never going to damage the light.
I mean, not the light, the battery.
It's again because these are protected, you're not going to damage the battery. It's the circuitry is going to cut off. The only thing is when that circuitry cuts off, when it gets to the voltage where it no longer operates, you just have to make sure you charge it relatively soon after that. Because if you let it sit uncharged for a while and you've completely drained it, a lot of times you can't recharge it. So that's just something to keep in mind.
Oh wow, okay. And this is kind of touching back on some of the other more random features of lights. I was noticing like I was looking at the M22 Warrior light the other day, and that has like a heat sink on the near the lens. Is that more show, or does that actually do anything?
No, it absolutely has a purpose. I mean, a lot of these lights, you're talking about like the M22, so it's 950 lumens or 1,000 lumens, whatever the rating is. That's a tremendous amount of energy that's coming out of this thing.
Mhm.
And even though LEDs are more efficient than an incandescent bulb, they're still not 100% efficient. LEDs are at like 18% efficiency or 20%. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but there's still a lot of energy that's just being dissipated as heat. So that heat has to go somewhere. And if the light doesn't have a good way to handle that, then a lot of times the LED will burn out or the circuitry will burn out. And you can have a catastrophic failure in the battery if it doesn't have all the protection to handle all that kind of stuff.
Okay, all right, that makes sense. I mean, it's a lot like the heat sinks that going back to computers again. It's just like the heat sinks on heavier duty processors and computers these days.
Right. Yeah. You're talking about a lot of energy. So it has to go somewhere.
Okay, all right. And coming back to batteries again, we got to charge these things up, and we start getting into some heavier duty chargers than I think like people see with like the Sanyo in loop batteries or the Apple batteries, which are actually the same thing from what I understand. But I noticed, and I think I got one. Not think I know I got one of these from you too. The more elaborate battery chargers, but kind of walk us through battery chargers. What do you're spending all this money on these batteries and these lights and everything else. What are you looking for in a charger? And is it kind of you get what you pay for? Or I guess walk us through all that.
To an extent, there's a to get what you pay for. But if you don't want to worry about your charger and you want something just super simple, you can throw batteries in and not worry about it. The Nitecore, the i2, and the i4. Those are our two best-selling chargers by far. We sell a ton of those. They're not our best chargers. So the i2 and the i4, something that's really cool about them is that they'll charge nickel metal hydride. They'll charge NiCad. So you're talking about Sanyo and loops. Those are nickel metal hydride. NiCad are your old school rechargeable double A's and triple A's and that kind of stuff. You don't really see as many of those anymore. They also charge lithium ion batteries, and there's no settings. So you put the batteries in. It's a spring-loaded base, so it'll take pretty much any size of battery out there. And you put them in the charger, and it automatically detects them, and you're good to go. So you don't have to worry about anything. And the i2, which is the tube A one, is $16, and the i4 is $25. So I mean, you're not really talking about a huge investment in these chargers. That's along the lines of what you would pay for a Sanyo Eneloop charger. So if you don't want to worry about it, get one of those two. If you want to get more advanced, then we could definitely get more advanced. They actually came out really recently with the D2 and the D4. They're basically the same chargers, but they added on digital displays. So you're talking about, do flashlights have battery indicators? Yeah, they do. And the chargers themselves, they have displays now. So you can see stuff like how long they've been charging, the type of batteries, and all kinds of different information on this little digital display. It's kind of cool. It doesn't add any features to the charger in terms of being able to adjust anything. So that's one of the downsides of those. There's a company called Xstar that's probably what I recommend if you really want the best that's out there. Xstar, and there's another company we have called eFest. They both make some really cool chargers. So they'll do all the stuff I just talked about. They have the spring-loaded bays, and they'll charge all the different battery types and stuff like that. But you can also adjust the charging rate. So we were talking about those Olight 3400 milliamp-hour batteries before. If you put them in a Nightcore charger or most of the other chargers on the market, they take a really long time to charge. I go through a lot of batteries. I have some pictures up on Instagram and some other places where I'll have like 10 of those i4s going at once. They're all full of 18650s and San Yuan loops and stuff like that. A lot of these batteries, they take 8 to 10 hours to charge. It's a really long time. Well, the Xstar, the XP4 is one of my favorite chargers out right now. You can adjust the charging rate. So you can make it charge about 4 times as fast as those Nightcores. And it still won't get hot. And it charges them really well, and it terminates at the right voltage and all that kind of stuff. That's my favorite one out right now. And they're actually coming out with one that has a digital display. So this one does everything. It's called the VP4. So it's going to have all those features, and it's going to have a digital display. It's going to be complete overkill for the vast majority of customers. But, guys like you, guys like me are going to totally geek out over it because it's got some cool stuff.
Yeah, it was actually from one of your videos where you were like, oh, this is my favorite one, and it does all these things. And I was like, oh, well, I got to have that one. And so I do have one. And you're sitting here talking about it, and I'm like, oh, now it's got a digital display. It's like computers. Oh, now it's got a faster processor. I need a new one for no good reason.
I need that. I need it.
I do. I need it. I need it.
And the price still isn't that bad. The XP4 that I was talking about, they're like $30, and I think the VP4 is going to be like $40. So we're not talking about like an insane amount of money or anything like that. The biggest thing for those two is the speed for me. So, you're talking about charging batteries, these high capacity ones. I can charge them in a few hours, which is a huge time saver for me because I go through a lot of batteries. So, we got a lot of law enforcement guys that are going through a ton of batteries, or places that have a lot of lights to charge or something like that. There definitely is an advantage to be able to charge them faster. Most people stick them in the charger, leave them overnight. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, no, I was pretty impressed with the charger when I got it, and it had more buttons and things than I was like, oh, this is really cool. I'm glad I got it, but this is kind of more stuff than I probably needed. But no, I was surprised at how fast it charged the batteries up.
So did you get the XP4?
Yes, I did. And now I'm going to have to get the one with the digital as soon as it comes out because, I need it.
We'll have them in a couple weeks, I
think. That's too funny. The other thing I really liked is that one actually had, and I don't know if the other ones do, but that one actually had like a cigarette lighter adapter, which was really cool for me. Because I know a lot of times it's like when I'm using these things the most is if I'm out camping or doing something else. And I mean, I don't always have a wall out with me, but I almost always have some vehicle with me.
Yeah. Yeah, most of the chargers out there, including the Nightcores, if it's not included with it, it's an option. Oh, another thing, I don't know if you noticed this about your Xstar. They can do USB out, which is a fantastic, fantastic thing. So you're talking about being in the middle of nowhere. You all of a sudden have your battery charger with you with 4 really high capacity 18650s. You can charge your phone, your GPS, if it's USB rechargeable, obviously, and other devices over and over and over with these high capacity batteries. So that's another really big advantage of the higher quality chargers is the USB out.
Yeah, I totally forgot about that. That is actually one of the reasons I looked at it because I was like, oh, neat, I could actually charge because I just use a little MacBook Air when I'm not recording or need a big screen for anything. And so I was like, oh, wow, that'll actually charge my battery at least once.
Yeah. I mean, you start looking at the solar chargers and all the different options out there for a lot of people. Just taking a small battery charger that has USB out ends up being a lot lighter and cheaper than most of the other options out there. Assuming you're not going out for like 6-month expeditions or anything like that.
Right.
And solar and stuff like that's pretty much your only option. But for short trips, a little battery charger with USB out is a great option.
Yeah. Is it out only or does it do in also? I was curious about that actually.
It won't do in.
Okay.
Not through the USB.
Okay.
Not that particular one. We have other ones that will. But not that one.
But I have like 4 chargers by the end of the week.
We have a lot of different ones.
That's pretty cool to know. And, you brought up an interesting point about heat, and I know a lot of people listening to the show, and a lot of people in general store a bag in their truck or in their vehicle. I do that as well. How good or bad is that for batteries? I mean, I know heat is one of the enemies of batteries, but as far as the batteries we've been talking about here, like the 123s or the 18650s, what impact does that actually have on these batteries? Does it kill the life, or does it make them explode? Or
I mean, it's not optimal. I mean, obviously, you get it hot enough and it's going to explode, but I think you're talking about like fire levels at that point. But you'd probably have to look at like one of the material MSDS, like the material safety data sheets or whatever that stands for, to see. But I think most of them, room temperature is kind of the happy place for batteries to be.
Okay.
But unless you're talking about super extremes, you're probably talking about still having 85-90% of the battery life, so it's not going to be catastrophic. And again, I could be totally wrong on that, but just my recollection of looking at those MSDSs in the past, that's kind of what I remember.
Okay, all right, fair enough. Now, we mentioned early on in the episode that you do a lot more than just play with flashlights all day. You sell all kinds of stuff. Tell us about your really cool store, man.
So that's a little bit of a sore spot for me of what you just said, because it's not like anything against you. It's a lot of people don't realize that we sell stuff beyond flashlights, and honestly, the big part of that is my fault. Most of my videos out there are about flashlights, although I've been trying to start getting more into knives and stuff like that lately. But people don't realize that we sell footwear and apparel and backpacks and all that kind of stuff. If you walk into our store, it's kind of like an REI. I mean, we have Arc'teryx and Icebreaker and Solomon shoes and Keen and Osprey backpacks and all that kind of stuff. And people that are looking on our website, it's honestly probably the way we have it designed. don't realize that we have all that other stuff. Mm-hmm. So, people ask what kind of store we are. We're an outdoor store. I mean, we have pretty similar to what REI carries, usually a little bit higher end. And we get a lot more into, I don't know if you call it the tactical, I'd call it more like the EDC kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. So knives and flashlights and little gadgets for your pockets and stuff like that. We get a lot more into that than REI and those kind of places get into. But yeah, we have a retail store in Georgia and Smyrna. It's right outside of Atlanta. And that's where we do everything right now. So everything is out of that store.
Oh, very cool. Okay. So do you guys do like Maxpedition bags and all the other stuff too?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's because of the knives and flashlights. We kind of touch both sides of the market. Mm-hmm. So a lot of places most people call them hook and bullet stores. So like your hunting, fishing kind of stores. Mm-hmm. We get that crowd in because of the knives and flashlights. But we also get in the law enforcement and military guys. We also get in your more granola REI kind of guys. We get a little bit of everybody. So we try to have a product mix that kind of appeals to as many people as possible without alienating any of those guys. So we don't have any like gun targets or anything like that out there, and we don't have anything on the super hippie side either. We try to stay kind of in the middle with the brands that we carry.
That makes sense, and that's actually cool. That was one of my co-hosts, Jonathan, and I used to spend entirely too much time in REI, and that was one of our biggest complaints. When it was like, yeah, you've got all these lightweight hiking packs and all this other stuff, and it's much better than kind of your standard outdoor store, your big chain outdoor store, like I can't even think of like Oshman's or something like that,
Dick's or Bass Pro or somewhere like that.
Yeah, exactly. But then you'd go over to their knife case and it would be like 5 knives, and it's like, and you're kind of looking at it going, okay, you only put these knives in here because it's like, well, you're an outdoor store, and you'd look like complete morons without some kind of cutlery here. So that always kind of drove me nuts, that when it came to like lights or when it came to knives or when it came to bags, it was all kind of I don't want to say
the lower end. Yeah, it's the lower end for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And
it's kind of funny because REI has actually started carrying some of the Chinese brands of flashlights. So they're a Phoenix dealer. They sell Nightcore. It's kind of interesting to see where they're going to go in the future. But I mean, REI, they sell what the market wants. They're a lifestyle store for the most part. Mm-hmm. They talk about adventure and all that kind of stuff, but most of their store is not most of their store. They have a huge chunk dedicated to lifestyle clothing and lifestyle footwear and that kind of stuff. And that's what people buy. I've got nothing against that. They sell what people want.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, very cool. Now, you guys carry Goal Zero?
Yes. Yep.
How do you like that stuff?
I like it a lot. They make a pretty cool product. When they first came out, a lot of people didn't really understand the concept, but they've been out for a while now, and they're making some really solid products. You got their little solar kits that you can basically hang from your backpack or stick on a picnic table at lunch or wherever and charge little battery packs. And the really cool thing about them is their battery packs, again, have that USB out feature. Mm-hmm. So you can charge the battery pack during the day. You've got this charged up battery pack that you can use at night to power all your devices. So that's a big departure from what a lot of the solar companies in the past have done, where you had to have your solar pack and your device at the same place at the same time kind of thing, where a lot of them are now going towards charging, the little nickel metal hydride batteries or lithium ion batteries for you to power stuff later.
When they first came out, I saw them and I was like, oh, that's neat stuff. And it looks like it's pretty heavy duty, but I wasn't really sure if it was just kind of like cheap junk or what.
No, it's quality for sure.
Okay.
And they make more expedition style stuff as well. So they have, giant packs of those 18650s that can power TVs and refrigerators and stuff like that. So they go pretty much as high end as you want to go.
Yeah, I've seen that. The things are like bigger than a car battery. They're pretty impressive.
Yeah, I have a couple.
That's awesome. Oh man. So now I originally found you through your YouTube videos, which they are, there are very few product reviews. Yeah, YouTube's free and there's all kinds of great information on there, but you do a really great job of delivery and of conciseness in your information and giving really good information, like a lot of the stuff and a whole lot more than what we've talked about today. What prompted you to start doing that?
Thank you, first of all. It's always nice to hear positive feedback because, YouTube being YouTube, you see a lot of the negativity and you kind of get numb to it. But it's nice to hear the positive stuff too. Honestly, it was because nobody else was doing it. Mm-hmm. I've been doing the videos for actually since before I started Going Gear. I was doing some like little fire starting videos, and they're still up online if you want to see how terrible I was 6 years ago. But it was stuff that I was interested in. And then we started carrying flashlights probably about 5 years ago now. I'd already done a decent amount of videos, and I was like, hey, why not? I'll start talking about these flashlights. And it kind of exploded from there. And, you talk about my presentation. And again, I appreciate you saying that. I get that a lot. I get a lot of people saying like, man, I really like your videos. I like the way you present everything. I like that you actually take it outside. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. I never really realized that most people don't do that, which kind of blows my mind. Mm-hmm. Like I don't really watch a lot of flashlight review videos, but a lot of these guys, they're doing reviews of flashlights. And it's all on a tabletop in their house. That's the entire video. They never actually take it outside and show what it can do. Honestly, that's the biggest part of the video for me personally. If I was looking for something, I'd want to see what it looks like outside because that's the biggest part of it for me. Mm-hmm. The interface, how you interact with it and how it operates outside. So I try to give people what I think they want. A lot of the stuff is what people have requested. Mm-hmm. So I've added a lot of different components over the years of stuff that people have asked me to start doing. Like I used to just show the flashlight without any of the packaging or accessories. And I started doing that and showing what it looks like in the holster and going over everything in detail. So, I try to do what people ask me to do.
Oh, neat. Well, they turned out really well, man.
Thanks.
Seriously, that was when I was looking, because I think I was just looking for a review on that M18 that I ended up buying from you. And when I found your video, I was like, I don't even care if this guy's more than where I was going to buy it. He put so much good effort and energy into making this video. I'm freaking buying it from him. And then I was like, oh, he's a small business owner. I'm totally going to buy it from him.
I appreciate that.
Yeah,
we try to do both. We try to have good prices and good information.
Yeah. No, you ended up having, it was like, at that point, I didn't even know what you were charging. So I was just like, I don't even care. I'm just going to go get it from him. But then I saw it. I was like, yeah, no, that's actually really, really competitive. So neat stuff. And one of the things I love, and you were talking about taking it outside, and this brings up to a question I have for you in a second about the car light thing. But I do love that you actually take it out and you show it next to an old mag light and show the difference. Because to me, I guess people like in say probably late 20s at the youngest to like 30s and on into like early 40s really, you know, the real go-to light for everything was a mag light, you know, either a 2D cell or the crazy pole vaulting 4D cell lights that were out. But it actually gives really good context on, you know, this is what you're used to. This is one of these lights. Now, I have to ask, what is the deal with the car lights? Do people really accuse you of having the car lights on?
I've been accused of that a few times. I've been accused of that. I've been accused of like turning on my house lights or like having somebody off camera kind of shining the flashlight in the same place.
Like a big Q beam or something.
I'm like, I have no reason to do that. I have no interest in doing that because if you buy the flashlight from me based on this video and I'm lying, you're going to return it to me. Like, I have zero desire or reason to do that. Like I'm never going to be anything other than honest in the videos because I don't want the lights coming back because I'm lying to people. So,
right.
Yeah, I mean, it really is the performance of the light, you know. And I actually just got a new camera that has even higher quality video and everything, just so I can just show people as accurately as possible what they're actually going to see when they use the flashlight.
Oh, that's really cool. And that's funny about those comments. I've gotten a bunch of requests to like take the shows and reformat them and put them on YouTube, even though there's no video.
Right.
I don't know why, but I've gotten a bunch of those requests, and I keep every time I go to YouTube and look and make the mistake of looking at the comments in the video, I'm just like, I do not want to start putting this show on YouTube.
I tell you what, man. Most people are respectful, and you know, there's a ton of articles about this and studies and everything, and it's human nature for us to see 100 comments and 99 of them be super respectful and polite and positive, and one be negative, and that's what we focus on.
Right.
So
yeah,
that's just our nature. And on YouTube, it's not quite that ratio, I'd say. And it depends at the level you're at. You know, as I get more subscribers and more views and stuff like that, I definitely see more of the negativity popping up because it stops being like a small community of commenters and stuff and people that know each other to just people that, you know, just random people from everywhere. I've got friends like, again, I'll go back to Such, who's a good buddy of mine. And you look at the comments on his videos and they're for the most part respectful. But I mean, they're people all over the place, just out of control, just cussing and racism and all this different stuff. And it's just part of the game. It comes with the territory. You just got to expect it. Comments I'm always going to do them unless something radical changes. I really like interacting with the people. You know, I like answering the questions. If it's not obvious enough, I genuinely like flashlights. I like talking about them. You know, I think we're going at an hour now, and we could probably go for another 3 hours, and I could keep on talking about flashlights. So I like it. I like talking to people about the flashlights and the knives and the fire starters and backpacks and, you know, whatever else I'm doing in the videos or in the store. So for me, it's a good thing. I like interacting with our customers, and I don't see any reason not to do it yet.
Yeah. So you're on more than YouTube though. You're also on. We were talking before the recording. You're also on Instagram and Facebook.
Yeah, Facebook is that's kind of the big one for everybody, and we have a pretty decent following on there and great interaction and everything. We're on Twitter, we're on Pinterest, we're on pretty much everything that we're supposed to be on. You know, you got your list of social media you're supposed to be on, and we're on all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But man, Instagram has kind of been the big one for us lately. YouTube's obviously the biggest by far, but Instagram's been really cool. It's kind of neat to be able to go out and take a picture and you put it up, and the level of interaction you get is great. I mean, you get lots of comments and lots of people liking your stuff, and the community out there. It's just a really cool community. I've been really enjoying Instagram. It's a lot less effort than YouTube, so I go take a picture of a knife and put it up there, and that's pretty much it. Versus spending 2 or 3 hours on a video.
Yeah,
but Instagram's been fun.
Well, very cool, man. Well, I'll be sure to include links to your site and your YouTube channel and Instagram and all that stuff. And Marshall, I sure appreciate you being on, and we'll have to bring you on again to talk about camping gear or some other topic so that people know that you're not just flashlights.
Yeah, what you want a coupon code for your guys?
Sure, if you want, we can do that.
Sure, give them like a 10% off coupon code.
Yeah, Sure.
What do you want it to be? I can create it right now.
We can do rabbit hole. That'll be easy.
Rabbit hole. There you go. Rabbit hole will save them 10% off just about anything.
Awesome, man. Well, I'm sure our listeners will really appreciate that.
Cool.
Well, Marshall, again, thanks. I sure appreciate it. We're going to have you on again soon to talk about more gear stuff.
Great. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
And with that, we wrap up episode 116. Thank you for joining us today. From Houston, Texas. Till next time, stay safe and sound.